Boom.
Just like that.
Oh my God. This is by far, I don't know. I hate to say it, but it's like this is one of the funnest podcasts I've done. Welcome everybody out to episode 80 of Utah in the Weeds. My name is Tim Pickett. I'm a medical cannabis specialist here in Utah, and Utah in the Weeds is a podcast about Utah cannabis and cannabis culture in general. Today's guest is George Breiwa. We have an opportunity to speak with him and do a lot of video. So this episode, if you aren't on video or aren't on YouTube, then you might want to be sure to log on to Discover Marijuana on YouTube and watch this episode, because I unbox the DynaVap products and we talk through them, and there's a lot of visual stuff. I do my best to describe what I'm doing on for audio, but the DynaVap product is pretty interesting because it's essentially a vaporizer, a flower vaporizer that doesn't require any battery. You use either some type of heating element, and they have a battery, or you can use a torch to heat up the element in order to vaporize the flower. But all medical and really, really cool Wisconsin company that is producing these right here in the US. They're phenomenal quality and it's just fun to, right? Cannabis is fun. It's fun to learn new things, learn about new ways to consume, and try to avoid putting flame to flower, right? This week, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Just very, very grateful to all of you, all of the subscribers, listeners. Thanks for subscribing to Utah in the Weeds. You can listen to it on any podcast player that you have access to. Thanks for subscribing and watching on Discover Marijuana. Again, my name is Tim Pickett. This is a great interview with George Breiwa from DynaVap in Wisconsin. Enjoy this episode. So tell me about your company.
So our company was formed primarily for the purpose of sharing an idea. And that idea is really, is there any longer a need in our world for people to be lighting things on fire and intentionally inhaling the smoke? And we don't believe that there is. We have the technology. And it's not just the devices that we make, Tim. There's many other options on the market. It just, we like the devices that we make. We put a whole lot of care and effort into designing them to be simple, very durable, and also very user-friendly. And also put a lot of care into trying to do our best to emulate the ritual and the experience of consuming cannabis.
Because it is, to that point, there is a culture around cannabis. There is that experience around cannabis, and Utah, by becoming one of these non-flame states, right? It's almost like you're like a dry state or something. There's a lot of people that they're almost just pissed off because they don't get that experience. There's something about grinding, rolling, packing, the preparation of this whole thing, very ritualistic. And that alone can be very medicinal for people.
I think it has way more value than most people even would ever contemplate. And that's whether it's someone that's in the cannabis industry, someone that consumes cannabis or not. Some people just don't really think about it. But the reality is, the thoughts that we have and the actions that we take and the anticipation that leads up to what the experience has to offer contribute in very significant ways in terms of what the end result of that experience is going to be.
I like the way you say that. You say that. How did you get into that? Is this something you've always been involved in personally, or is this something you fell into?
Oh, it's just a little bit of both, right? So I didn't really participate in any sort of cannabis consumption or the culture at all until I was into my 20s. part of it was the legality issue. Part of it was, occupation related, where it just didn't make sense and it wouldn't have been a good choice. But from my first introduction, I knew one thing for sure, and that is I did not like the smoke. And I've been very anti-smoking for a very long time. Smoke bothers me. I think I'm even at this stage in my life partially allergic to it. I don't think I've got asthma or anything like that, but it affects me in a very negative way. And I don't like the other ingredients in smoke besides the things that I'm looking for. All the incomplete combustion byproducts and all the other yucky things. So, looking for another way. And the process started probably back in the early 2000s when the idea of using a vaporizer was just kind of there if you were really looking for it. Some people that maybe have heard of it, but most people hadn't. And there wasn't a whole lot of love for the technology that was out there at the time. So I looked into it a little bit, played around, tried to make some stuff, and then it just kind of sat by the wayside for a few years. But all the while, anytime I would come near burning cannabis, it was like, why does it have to be this way? Why does it have to taste so terrible? I mean, it smells great, but then when you taste it after you've burned it, I mean, come on. Who puts cookies in their oven and burns them on purpose?
Right. I mean, it's so true. There's something about it. You want that joint to taste good, but it just doesn't.
No.
Right. And it's like it almost is there. But then there's that, you just can never get there because there's that combustion, there's that high heat, and you're inhaling the plant material. Right. Yeah. From a medical standpoint, as a medical provider, we know, and the Utah Medical Association got right on board with the no flame thing because there is no medical benefit of combustion.
It's contradictory.
Plain and simple. Yeah, it is contradictory. There are discussions, I guess, you could have on risk versus benefit, right? If somebody has terminal cancer, are you going to kill them with the smoke before they die of the cancer? Maybe not. But why not just teach people to use a method that gives them the experience, gives them the medicinal quality of whatever you're consuming, offers more benefit because you get that entourage effect, right? Way better than burning off all those cannabinoids. And we've talked about this in the podcast before. But in addition to talking about you, we've got these things that are in front of me here now that I have taken out of the package, and you're going to have to walk me through this a little bit. I would
love to walk you through it. I wanted to send you kind of an overview, a sample to give you a good general idea of what our company and what our product line is all about. And the quick overview is we manufacture smoking alternative devices, right? Or thermo extraction devices, what we really like to call them, because
thermo extraction devices, DynaVap, thermo extraction device company, like when it gets right down to it, right?
When it gets right down to it, because, why would you light your medicine on fire when all you need is heat to get what you desire, right?
Aha.
And this is how it works, Tim. It's so much fun that if you take any one of the devices out, so if you just grab any part of the stuff that's in that box, hold it up so I can see it.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing, I've got this little...
So that's one of our colored M's. So that is our completely plastic-free packaging.
Yeah, it comes in it's a little cardboard, and I had to peel it apart.
Yep.
And inside is a cylindrical device. Looks like a vape pen.
It does.
Vape pen battery.
Yep. But
little
it's
cap
small.
on it.
Yes.
Ooh, it's like a single hitter.
Kind of. So what I'm going to do is I've got another variation of that here in my hands.
Okay.
So I'll visually walk you through this while I describe it. So when you take that little cap off, what you see is the extraction chamber.
Yep.
Okay. That's where you put your cannabis or your other botanicals, because these devices work with a wide range of botanicals. Okay.
Sure.
So after we've done that, you can put the cap back on. Okay. And the cap is the key to the DynaVap. The cap is the key to the functionality that allows you to consume your cannabis without lighting it on fire.
Okay.
Because inside this cap, and all our devices come with one, is a tiny little calibrated thermostat that will click when your extraction chamber gets to extraction temperature. Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
there's a couple of ways that we can make it click. There's some torch lighters in the box. There's
Yep.
also a really fun little package that looks like this.
Yes, I've got
we
that.
can get into that now, or we can get into that
Hey,
later.
Let's get in. Let's get into it now. Okay, so that
So
comes in a zippered pouch.
Yes.
Really nice zippered pouch. And I'm opening up the zippered pouch. Inside there's a couple of little things. One kind of bigger square device.
Yes. So about the size of an old flip phone.
Yep.
Right. Before they started making them small. So this device, if you look on the side, there's a little button. If you press the button quickly 3 times, it'll turn it on.
Okay, I've got the green light.
Green light.
Yep, got a green light on my.
Really fun, Tim. So if you simply take your device, your VapCap, and you drop it in like this, okay, the light should turn from green to red, and when you hear it click, take it out.
Oh,
just like that.
Yeah, just like that. Okay, so I slid that in there.
Yes,
and it didn't take. But
the cap is now very hot.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, that thing is hot.
Okay, it's hot enough to effectively extract all of the active compounds from whatever's in the extraction chamber.
Oh yeah, you do taste a little bit of the heat, right on a dry hit of the little. What are we calling this?
This is a VapCap.
A VapCap.
Yes.
Okay, VapCap. And then what do we call the battery?
That's an induction heater.
An induction heater. We're going to drop this in.
Yep.
Boom. It flashes.
Yep.
Flashes again. I'm doing it again. It clicks.
Let me take
How
it out.
the hell did you get it to click?
It took a little bit of doing, a little bit of engineering, but the true goal here, Tim, was to utilize the available technology today in our world to give people a much better option for consuming their products, their botanicals, their cannabis, whatever it might be, without having to light it on fire. So key thing is also the cap will only click once on the heat up. So we need to let it cool down and reset before we heat it again.
Okay.
So on that induction heater, you notice there's a little magnet. Okay.
Yes.
So you can sit your device right on that magnet, and that'll help pull some of the heat out until you hear that reset click.
I did hear the reset click. It doesn't take long.
Perfect. No, it doesn't stay hot all that long. But here again, we're trying to emulate as much as we reasonably can. It's a little bit of a shift. We're using some technology, but our goal is to emulate the smoking or the combustion experience without the need for creating the incomplete combustion byproducts and all the other nasty things. So you can really enjoy everything that your botanicals, that your plant, that your cannabis has to offer without all of the other unpleasant things.
No, this is slick. How many, this is probably, it's a good 2 or 3 inhalations at least, in this.
A typical load in that size extraction chamber is about 0.1 grams.
Got it.
Okay. What people typically find is that that's going to give a nice experience over the course of somewhere between 3 and 5, maybe 6 heat cycles. So you've just gone through 2 heat cycles. Okay.
Okay.
And where this gets really fun is all of our devices, the ones we manufacture now, some of the older ones didn't have this capability, have the capability to reduce the size of the extraction chamber by 50%, which means it makes for, at least in my opinion, a very, very nice microdosing tool. So you can consume a very tiny amount, which is really nice for people that are trying to just carefully medicate just the right amount for the effect that you're seeking.
Well, this is exactly what I was thinking when I put this, I'm looking at the chamber and thinking to myself, oh, not a lot goes in there. That's just the right amount for, what,
Right.
fill in the blank there. That's just the right amount for. And when it comes to flower, the big problem for newcomers to cannabis as medicine and consuming cannabis in general as somebody who's new to it, it's always dosing. It's always dosing. How can you keep the dose low while you figure it out? And then how can you get flower how can you get flower dosing to be consistent? That is so difficult to do. But with a chamber like yours, I mean, it literally is just the right amount. And when I'm looking at it, I swear I could just put a pencil eraser in there.
It's about the size of a pencil eraser.
Yeah, and
it's about 8 millimeters in diameter and just a little bit less than 10 millimeters deep at full size. When we go to the half size position, it's the same diameter and half that depth, so about 5 millimeters. So it's a very small chamber.
So half size would be a different device, a different.
Actually, no. I don't want to get too complex right now because it's first introduction. But the screen that's in the bottom of that chamber is positionable, and I can show you how to position it into the half chamber size. We can do it now. We can do it later. Whatever you're most comfortable with.
Well, let's leave it for now, right there, and let's go back to this battery, this induction heater.
Induction heater, yes.
Because this essentially, we're going to drop that in there, wait for the click, and this turns on and off and is chargeable here. Anything else with this is there? If I leave it in there for 2 clicks, is it going to get hotter?
If you leave it in there, it's going to continue to heat until the device times out. It'll time out in about 10 seconds.
Okay.
So many people refer to our devices as analog devices because they effectively have no electronic components, right?
Okay.
They don't turn themselves on. They don't turn themselves off. You, as the operator, are the person that is driving the device. So you can heat it longer if you like. You can take it out before it clicks if you like. So you can kind of dial in exactly what you're looking for because it's your foot that's on the gas, right? So unlike the electronic devices where you're pushing a button and you're letting some microcontroller take control in terms of determining how it's going to operate, the person holding the device in their hand is the control. The induction heater is your source of energy. And by separating the extraction chamber from the energy source and the control, what we've been able to do is make a device that's extraordinarily durable because it's the controls or the energy source, whether it's a battery or even a torch or something along those lines. Those are the parts that fail.
Yeah.
This is your dosing mechanism.
Right. What approximate temperature are you getting with 1 click?
Okay. So it varies a little bit depending on your technique. And here's where it gets a little bit more fun. Slightly more challenging, but for most of us back in the day when we're first getting on a bike, it was a little bit challenging. Once we got over that initial learning curve, it became more or less second nature. And we could choose if we wanted to go fast or go slow, right?
Yeah.
These devices work very similarly once you understand the principle of operation. And so what I'm going to get at is just a couple things. With an induction heater, especially this one, you drop it in. If you just leave it there until it clicks, it's going to click on the first heat cycle somewhere in the neighborhood of around 400, high 300s to low 400 degrees Fahrenheit in the extraction chamber. Okay. After the reset click, you drop it in again. That temperature, when it clicks again, is going to be slightly higher because there's some residual heat left in there when the cap resets. Okay. Now, that's with the induction heater. If you're going to use a different source of heat, say a flame, a lighter.
I happen to have one of these in my box.
Yes. Let me see which one you got.
I've got this one, and I've got some torch.
Yes. Okay. So, depending on where you heat the cap, okay, if you heat towards the tip here, okay, we like to have some sayings here. So, heat the tip for a tasty rip, you heat the base to go to space. And the reason behind that is the temperature indicator, the thermostat, is towards the front end here, where the groove is.
Okay.
So when you heat closer to the groove, especially with a torch, it's going to click or give you that temperature indication earlier, before we put as much heat into the extraction chamber. When we heat a little bit further away, we're driving more heat into that chamber before our cap clicks, which is going to give us a little bit higher temperature.
Little higher temperature.
Little higher temperature. We can do the same thing with the induction heater by placing it in the induction heater for a few seconds, pulling it out, giving it a few seconds for the heat to kind of conduct through to get more to thermal equilibrium, drop it back in, and more slowly bring up your extraction chamber to optimum temperature.
Okay, now that I'm understanding this a little bit better, and it really only took me a minute with you describing it, I'm the master of how hot this gets.
Yes.
Right? Like this little induction chamber is going to get as hot as I want it to get. So for the first few times, I'm going to drop this in, wait till it clicks. I'm going to take that hit.
Yep.
I'm going to see how that goes. Right? Certainly, I'm going to try that for a little while. Then I'm going to say, you know what? I want to get it a little hotter. Right? It's nighttime. I need that to just be a little bit. I don't know. For me personally, the lower temperatures tend to be a little bit more uplifting, and the higher temperatures tend to be a little bit more sedating. So for me, it's evening time. I want that to be a little bit hotter. I'm gonna play with that. I'm gonna not let it click. I'll wait. I'll let it flash a few times. I'll pull it out. I'll put it back in there. Wait for it to click a second time. Boom. Now I'm in the 420 range Fahrenheit, and I'm golden. Ooh, that's easy. I just did it. I'm an expert already.
Isn't it nice and intuitive?
It's totally intuitive. This makes sense to me because I'm assuming that this other little canister that's in the DynaVap product is a little bit of like an herb container.
Yes. Inside the induction heater case.
Inside the case for the induction heater, there's a little, a nice little plastic, perfectly fit plastic stash jar. I can put that in there. I can put my pen in there as well, and I'm kind of good to go. That's super cool because the dosing is the right way. One thing about COVID is there's no sharing of anything anymore, right? So everybody wants to have their own single serving size,
which is nice.
It is nice.
You're gonna have a few extra devices here now, Tim. So when you have friends over for dinner, no different than when you're serving the food, you don't take a couple bites and pass your fork to the right. You can give everyone at the table their own VapCap.
Yeah.
Okay. And that way they can control the experience very precisely once they understand what they're looking for. Maybe they want that hotter hit, even though it's still early in the evening, and you don't. Maybe they want a different strain than you're looking for. So not that I'm against sharing. I'm certainly not. In fact, sharing is a huge part of, I think, the cannabis culture. And it's also a huge part of our culture as a company. But I would much rather share my torch or my induction heater than my VapCap.
Yeah, your VapCaps, the induction heater case happens to be just the right size for 4 or 5 VapCaps in the top. And probably this little mesh compartment on the top would be perfect for a couple of alcohol wipes. Sure. If I'm thinking, I can wipe these off. You've got a few people who are involved. You've got one induction heater, and you're off to the races. Wow, you have really just opened my eyes to an entire new way of consumption in a group where you're all participating in the same event, essentially like the old, you're all smoking joints together, but you don't have to smoke joints. You've got your own dosing device. Everybody shares an induction heater. It's way to go. Way to go. I'm excited for this. How do you turn this thing off? 3 buttons,
It'll
3
turn
clicks?
off automatically, or push it 3 times again, it'll shut off.
How long does a charge last?
With that device, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about 35 to 40 clicks.
35 to 40 clicks. That's great. Okay, so when I'm heating this up with a torch, teach me how to use this lighter you have.
Okay, so that lighter there is your new lighter, yes. So the gas is already on when the lid's open.
Okay. Looks like a high-tech Zippo.
Yeah, it's we tried to make it like a Zippo. So if you open the lid and put your thumb right on the top where the flame would be, and then slide across the flint, it should light right up.
Oh yeah, we got heat. I had to manipulate the bottom.
There you go. So what's fun with this lighter is we designed it so that you could be either a single flame torch or a dual flame torch. So there's a slider on the side that allows you to select between single flame or dual flame.
Aha. Okay, the slider on the side. I put the slider down, and then I clicked ripped the flint, and only one flame fires.
Yep.
And when the slider is on the top, it gives me both flames.
Yes.
Okay, that makes total sense. And the gas is on when the lid is up.
Just like
and then
Zippo.
there's a window on the side where I can see how much fuel is in the lighter itself. Bottom, of course, has a flame adjustment knob, little twist knob.
Yep.
Where I can make it a torch.
Dial it in.
Yep.
I like to have my lighters adjusted so I turn the flame down as far as I can to maintain a steady flame.
Yep. That's what I was just trying to do, and I turned it just a little too far.
And that lighter lights the best if you hold it up and put your thumb right on the top middle and slide it across.
Yes. Okay. Super easy when you do it the right way.
Yeah, if you try and just hit the side of it, they're more difficult to light.
Got it. Makes sense. Really nice. What type of fuel is in this lighter?
It's your typical refillable lighter butane.
Now, we could use this for the VapCap.
Yes.
Just like you were saying, we can still get the click.
Absolutely. So the technique is a little bit more challenging than with the induction heater. So what we're going to want to do with the flame is you want to hold your cap above the flame. You want to aim the flame for somewhere in the middle of the cap and kind of rotate either back and forth or continuously around to heat the cap until it clicks. Just like that.
Oh, yeah. It clicked away.
And you're done.
I still can't figure out. Everybody, that we're all going to be sitting around and we're going to be thinking, man, the click is the key, right? Like, how'd they get it to click? It's awesome. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. Then your cap is essentially heating the herb, and then you're drawing. And that's the idea behind not having to put flame to the herb.
Exactly. So I can give you a quick analogy. It's no different than when we're baking cookies. Okay? I mean, who doesn't like the smell of fresh baked cookies? And fresh baked cookies tend to smell a whole lot like cookie dough smells because we're just simply heating it up and we're baking it. The extraction chamber in a VapCap is basically a tiny little oven. And the cap has a thermostat in it. And when you set your oven, you're basically setting a thermostat so that it stops heating at a particular temperature. Okay. When the cap clicks, we know that we've hit the temperature. We are then smelling or tasting our fresh baked cookies versus taking our really nice cookies and lighting them on fire. Well, then they taste like burnt cookies.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is really cool. Okay. We can't leave it at that because I have 2 more cylindrical containers here.
Oh, these are fun.
And I think I've got a 0. So these might be the same.
No, they're very different. What's inside?
Oh, really?
Yes.
This really is Christmas. Okay, they're coming basically like tubes. Like I'm going to unroll them and cook some rolls. It looks like a large version.
Oh,
It looks like a
okay.
large organic version of your VapCap.
And you've just opened it.
Yeah. Okay, so I just pulled it.
Yeah, that's packaging for what we call our Omni. That's this guy right here.
Okay, the Omni.
Yes.
I've got the Omni out, and then it comes with its own. Does it come with its own lighter?
I like to put a lighter in there as well. Yes. So you've got another option. Because I wanted to make sure that all of the devices that I sent you have a portable heat source, so that they're useful. So you can mess around with them, you can share them, you can give them away to someone that you care about.
Yeah, this is fantastic. This looks a lot like a Chillum design, where you have a device inside another device.
Yeah, it's fun. We wanted the packaging to look like the device inside. So the packaging is actually made by us in our shop.
Oh, it's great. It looks like it's got wood on both ends, and then the metal, machined metal through the middle. It's cylindrical, and then you pull another version of the VapCap out. Same style VapCap, and then you have. Is this your lighter too? Do you make these?
No. We participated in designing the lighter that you just used with the flint. The other lighters are more or less commodity torch lighters.
Now, what's the difference? Is there difference between the VapCaps that I had in the cardboard and this Omni?
Yes. So we're looking at either end of the spectrum. So the first ones that we looked at were what we refer to as our M. And these are the colored M's. So they come in 3 different colors. They also come in a base stainless steel as well, with no color. The one that's in your hand right now, we call our Omni, and this is our black one, or we call it Obsidian. It's the high end of the spectrum, right? So this device is completely machined from titanium. The only part that's not titanium is the little black cap on the end. So every other part of this device is grade 2 titanium, which means it's just commercially pure titanium. It's not alloyed with aluminum or vanadium like grade 5 titanium is. And it allows for a little bit more of a customizable experience, because on this device, when you grasp the mouthpiece and give it a little twist, okay, it will adjust some internal parts that if you pull it out, you can see what's inside. The mouthpiece will pull right out. Okay?
Yeah. Looks like a little drill bit almost.
Right. So when this is put together, you will notice that the 2 parts thread into one another. Okay. When we twist the mouthpiece, when it's inside the tube, that other part of the tube, which you see the twisty parts, which we call the condenser, it will either extend or retract. Okay. And as it's extending or retracting, it changes the clearance between that tube and the backside of our tip or extraction chamber. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to dial in how much dilution air is coming in our air ports here versus how much vapor is coming from your extraction chamber. So you can really precisely adjust and modulate what we refer to as your air and vapor ratio.
Now, why does this matter, George?
Why does it matter? Well, for anyone that has ever coughed when consuming cannabis, that's why it matters.
Because the amount of air versus the amount of essentially vapor that you're getting is going to adjust the harshness of the product.
You got it, Tim. It's that simple.
I guess I've really never considered it. But having the availability to adjust how much air and how much, now you've got my attention. I mean, I guess we probably do this by habit. You know, when you're taking a hit, you're going to take a little bit. I call it
air and mix it in.
Right? You're sipping. You're sipping on the vaporizer. And here you'd be able to basically dial that in by the length of those internal parts
Yes.
and how far they are away from the chamber.
So a quick way to do that, if you pop it out again, and you basically thread the two together,
okay,
and then back it off just a touch, so they're not binding, right?
Right.
And then you place it back in to the stem. If you look closely at the mouthpiece, what you're going to notice is there's 9 lines that are carved into the mouthpiece, and they vary in length from short to long.
Wow.
Okay. So if you rotate this mouthpiece to the shortest length line clockwise, looking at the mouthpiece, right? And then start rotating it counterclockwise, just like a combination lock, right? Each little micro rotation is going to extend that condenser a little bit further into the tip, further reducing how much dilution air is going to be admitted into the device. And those little lines, since they go up incrementally, allow kind of a visual cue. So if you know that, yeah, I like to run my device somewhere between 5 and 7, right?
Right.
So I rotate it all the way around to effectively the beginning, and then back it up 4 notches, 5 notches. And I'm going to get consistent results each time.
Okay, I know exactly the person that this needs to go to. No question about it. I'm thinking of a person whose preferred method of consumption is joints. And it's their civil disobedience in Utah. And I know that this has got to be something they need to experiment with and experience, because I don't know, it's all of the things. You still get that experience, but you don't have the medical problem.
No.
Cannabis. So for listeners who are interested in this or don't know, when you consume, there is no connection between smoking cannabis and lung cancer, and everybody will tell you that. It's the thing everybody latches onto. But cannabis smokers get emphysema and they get chronic bronchitis. And the more, that is because we're inhaling the combusted plant material. And the longer you smoke, the more chances that is. Now that we have a growing population of cannabis consumers in this country, and the younger crowd, there's a lot of young people, a lot more young people smoking cannabis than there was 20 years ago, just by numbers. That's a lot of people who are going to develop chronic bronchitis and emphysema symptoms from that inflammatory response from all that plant material. So the more we can tweak this use and reduce the smoking, the better from a medical standpoint, patients all over. And I think what you've mentioned here, George, is that by trying to help people get that experience of smoking and yet not smoking.
Isn't it beautiful?
It really is a great idea and a great company. Okay, I'm opening up this last box. It's another tube.
Yep.
And we have, similar lighter. And yet in this one, we have a nice wooden, looks to me like walnut.
It is.
Wood. There you go. There's my cabinetry making days. I've got a magnet on top, which I'm going to assume is, now that I'm getting familiar, that my cooling magnet.
Yes.
And then how do I open this? Oh, it twists.
Just like an old school stash box.
This is an old school stash box right here.
Except,
and you got to twist it all the way around to get at take it at both sides.
Yep.
Okay, so now I'm holding a wooden metal VapCap I've got the same cap, so I'm familiar with that now. But I've got a really nice looking, looks like it's machined metal. What metal are we looking at?
So this device we call the Vong. And Vong is more or less an acronym that means VapCap on glass. So this is a combination of wood and titanium. So either end of this device is got a titanium crown, we've got a titanium tip, and then of course our temperature indicating cap on the one end. And what's really fun is on the mouthpiece end of it, you have a 10 millimeter taper and a 14 millimeter taper where the logo is. So this piece will natively connect with both your 10 millimeter and your 14 millimeter female glass connectors on your water pieces.
What? Okay, stand by, George.
Oh, we're getting the glass, huh?
Okay. Boom.
Just like that.
Oh my God. This is by far, I don't know. I hate to say it, but it's like, this is one of the funnest podcasts I've done. And we're virtual. I can't imagine. I got to fly to you next time.
Well, you're certainly welcome to visit anytime you like.
Okay,
we'll show you around.
The diameter of this fits right into a glass piece perfectly. Wow, you just made that glass piece legal in Utah.
Isn't that nice?
That is nice. Okay, so, and then the container it comes in, that's classic. I really like that a lot because you could put herb in there in the one side. This slides down in nicely, and you've got a completely conspicuous container. Man, there's hours and hours of fun to be had with these things.
Hopefully a lifetime of quality time that you can spend with yourself and with your friends, enjoying the things that you love to do.
No question about it. Well said. And every time that little cap clicks, just makes you smile, doesn't it?
It sure does.
So how can Utah is a non-flame to flower, right? We cannot put flame to flower. And yet a lot of your devices, other than the induction heater, are going to require, and certainly it's easy, to carry a flame with you to heat them up with the flame. Mm-hmm. So there is that element to it. I think that I would tell people, if you were going to buy a DynaVap, to me, the induction heater makes the most sense from a medicinal standpoint because it is the look. If you're concerned with breaking out a flame at all, then the induction heater is certainly the least
attention grabbing.
Yes, the least attention grabbing.
But what's nice with these devices, Tim, is if your battery gives out, all you need is something that's hot. If you're a person that likes to be outside, it's particularly satisfying when you're sitting around the campfire. And no joke, you can just grab that poking stick that you've been poking the fire, and the end is kind of smoldering, got a cherry on it. You can roll your cap right on the hot end of that burning stick. And when your cap clicks, you have a nice, high-quality experience without the harshness of the smoke.
Yeah, and in Utah, that makes a lot of sense because, boy, we have a lot of people who like the outdoors, and batteries tend to not do so well in the heat. They don't do well in the cold. They wear out. Whereas these devices really will never wear out. How long will cap? It seems to me, looking at these, that the cap is the thing that would potentially wear out the first.
There's three parts of the device that tend to wear out. The cap is one of them. The little screen inside is another. And occasionally the O-rings fail. But all of these things are easy to replace, are user-serviceable. And the fun thing is, we see many, many reports of customers that have purchased products from us, years ago and used them multiple times a day, every single day, and haven't had a single part fail. So they can be extremely durable. But even if one of those three consumable parts does fail, they're relatively low cost and very easy to replace.
Would you recommend that? How do you recommend which one somebody starts with? Here it is Christmas, right. Black Friday, literally Black Friday. This podcast is going to go up on Friday morning at 4:20 a.m.
Nice.
And, I did not do this intentionally, folks, but I'll certainly put a link in the video. When it gets posted on YouTube, we'll put a link in the video to DynaVap's website so that we can make sure that you're getting there, because, gosh, I think this would be a great, these are great Christmas presents. The Omni, especially this, the Vong, and I don't even know what these cost, but it really doesn't matter. You need to buy a legal way to consume your cannabis.
Well, let's talk about the cost for a second, if you don't mind.
Love to.
So we manufacture these devices in our shop here in Wisconsin. Okay, these are not made in China; they're not made overseas. Okay, we manufacture them using the highest quality materials we can get our hands on. We design our devices to the best of our ability to be as durable as we possibly can, with the intent to make them generational. This is something that you could give to your grandkids when they are of the appropriate age, and it should still work just fine, potentially maybe needing a small replacement part or something along those lines. When using these devices, especially for the consumption of botanicals such as cannabis, it's very common for people to find that after having one of our devices for just a few weeks and getting more familiar with the nuance of how to use it, how to ride that bike, and to get to where I'm going at the pace I want to get there, that all of a sudden, the quantity of material that you're consuming has been reduced substantially. It's pretty common for people to find that they are still getting to where they want to go just as fast as they want to get there, but they're only using half as much as they typically used to, especially if they were lighting it on fire. So the reality is, even though the devices are not in and of themselves cheap, they tend to pay for themselves in relatively short order, just on conservation alone.
It does seem like they're going to last me forever. Like, that's, I think, what my thought process is on, okay, which one do I want? Well, I'm going to have this. I mean, they look like, I'm going to have this for a long, long time, so I better choose wisely, right? When I want to, right now in current prices, certainly if this lasts forever, the prices will likely change over time as materials and everything change. But what are they? What are the costs right now, roughly?
So the price on the M, which is our entry-level stainless steel model, is $75. The colored ones are a bit more at $87. The Vong, the last one we opened up, is kind of our middle-of-the-road one. That's around $125. And the Omni, which comes in two colors right now, just the plain titanium or the black or the obsidian like you have. The plain one is $220 and the black one is $250. So again, they're not cheap devices.
You know what, though?
At the same time,
this is definitely on par with, what I would consider high-end vaporization of flower. I'm actually surprised that a couple of them aren't, $300, to be honest. So
there's a fun part about that as well. So we have a little bit of a community on various social media platforms, Reddit being one of them. And on Reddit, there is a couple of communities that focus on vaporization. They also have a subsection where people buy, sell, and trade their vaporizing devices. And what we've seen is that our devices historically have held their value very well. It's not unusual for a device that's 2 or 3 years old to still sell for 70 to 80% of its original price. And in some cases, which is almost mind-boggling to me, Tim, some of our older devices actually sell for more than they were brand new.
Well, and I could see, like you say, passing these things down or giving these as a gift. This is a really nice gift to give somebody. Very, very classy, right? It's smart. It's a health conscious, frankly, decision. It's American made. It checks all my boxes on purchasing things like this. Where can people get a hold of you and find out more?
Our website is DynaVap.com. That's DYNA, V as in Victor, A, P as in Paul.com. You can find us on most of the other social media channels as well, whether it's Facebook or Instagram. We have a pretty extensive list of videos on YouTube as well, showing our products, showing how to use them, how to care for them, how to do maintenance, etc. I'd say that pretty good summary. There's other things out there. I encourage people to simply type our brand into any search engine, and you should find us right there. We sell our product in a wide range of other retail stores and shops. If you go to our website, we have a where to buy that will direct you to a store or shop, hopefully close to where you're at, where you might be able to simply go and see it in person or buy one right there. And we like it when you support the local shops because, when the local shops aren't there, it's really kind of annoying.
Yeah, it is. It is really annoying.
It's really nice when they are there. And I'm one of those people. I like to try and do my best to appreciate things while I have them versus wishing I had them when they're gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, this has been great. Is there anything else that we've kind of missed or passed over that you wanted to bring up?
Well, there's a couple things. And I don't need to spend a lot of time on them, but the first one is really, why do we exist? As we kind of touched on in the beginning of the episode, it was in the pursuit of finding a better alternative that wasn't some, giant battery-powered, vaporizer. To see if we can't do our part to bring some nice, simple, durable technology to the world to accelerate the transition away from smoking, right? And at the same time, we've also found that as people come on board and learn a little bit more about what it's all about, and they join what we refer to as the DynaVerse, right? This community of like-minded people that very much enjoy not just using our products, but generally using some other method for consuming their cannabis, their flower, their botanicals, whatever it might be, in a more responsible for themselves and responsible for the people around them fashion. Get rid of the smoke. That they really like interacting with one another, and it's created a very positive place online for people to interact with one another, talk about stories, talk about tips and tricks. And it's also created another thing that was totally unanticipated back in the day, and that was a whole secondary market of makers that make a wide range of accessories and even aftermarket components for these devices. So you can really dial in and build or modify your device to really represent who you are or what mood you just happen to be in at the time.
That's pretty cool. And just something that brings this community kind of back together too, because if you're not taking care of the core cannabis community, I don't know, they're the ones who kept this plant around during Prohibition. We kind of owe it to that culture to support that. This has been a really fun conversation, George. I'm glad that you came on and shared this stuff with us. If people want to find out more about DynaVap and the brand, we'll put some stuff online about it. You can certainly call us if you can't find these products, and we'll figure out ways to work with you, George, and get patients in Utah access to this stuff. I think it's been really great.
We hope we can do that. We hope we can participate. Quick note regarding the patients. Our devices just earlier this year were approved in Ohio, which is also kind of a generally non-smoking medical state. So we're on the official list for Ohio as a smoke-free consumption device.
Oh, good.
If you have any points of contact that you might be able to assist us with for Utah, we'd like to do the same thing.
Absolutely. And absolutely we do. No question about it. We can connect you with the right individuals, I think, and really help a lot of people get to know what's out there, get to know safer consumption methods. That's what's important. So yeah, we'll work together for sure.
Beautiful.
Just to wrap this up, everybody, thanks for subscribing. I hope you had a good Thanksgiving. If you subscribe to the podcast on any podcast player that you want to listen to podcasts on, and utahmarijuana.org/podcast is where you can find this podcast and the transcript of it. And Discover Marijuana on YouTube will also be a place where this is posted. And if you want to get a hold of me, or you have questions for George or myself regarding this stuff, if you can't get a hold of him on his YouTube channel or on their website, feel free to go to ours and just comment on this video, and we'll look at all those comments and answer all of those questions. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe out there.